Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at investment markets. Really a story at present with sort of global financial markets about sort of vaccines, obviously for COVID. First, initially we had the Pfizer vaccine come out, and that was over 90% effective. That has now been revised to around 95% effective. Also as well, we've had Moderna come out, they've been 94% effective. In the meantime, Russia has come out and President Putin has claimed that the Russian vaccine was 92%. That was really on the back of the Pfizer 90%, just trying to have a little bit of one-upmanship. But obviously that's all positive news for global markets in terms of getting economies back up and running. Certainly COVID cases are increasing, spiking, especially in the US and in Europe. But just because there's a vaccine, it doesn't mean it's a reset and we go back to pre-COVID levels straight away. It's going to take time. Obviously, the biggest issue is the logistics of actually getting a vaccine distributed. If you look at it, you can't just go and vaccine over 7 billion people. So certainly positive news out there, and it is encouraging that the sort of great minds and the drug companies have managed to come up with a vaccine that is effective. Now, obviously, the other big issue is in the US is the sort of failure of President Trump to acknowledge the election results. Finally, he seems to be coming around to that way of thinking, though he's still yet to concede. Now, this has major implications as we're sort of winding down to January the 20th and the inauguration, because President-elect Biden isn't getting the security briefings, etc. he's supposed to be getting from the Trump administration. And again, it just throws into mockery, really, the whole sort of democratic process. There was an election. President Trump has clearly lost, but he's just sort of, failing to acknowledge that. The other interesting fact as well is that many of the legal claims that the Trump camp was launching have either been thrown out by the courts or have actually been withdrawn by their own lawyers. And in some cases, the lawyers that were representing them have just walked away from the case. So obviously, on the back of certainly on the vaccine, and the US economy in general, US shares are trading pretty well, and now it's just a question of pushing through and seeing how they sort of trade towards year end. Just interesting this morning, as there was analysis coming out that some analysts are predicting the Dow Jones could touch 40,000 next year. Certainly in the US, it'll be interesting to see how President-elect Biden will address the sort of situation. Clearly he's got a Senate that looks like it's going to still be Republican dominated, have the majority there. One thing he has been known for is sort of being able to work with both sides of the aisle. So it'll just be interesting to see how it sort of runs through. Certainly most analysts, believe it will be a lot less confrontational than President Trump's 4-year reign. So on the back of that, oil's got a pretty reasonable bid, and I say it's just going to be very interesting to see how these economies do sort of reopen and sort of get back up and running. Obviously with the COVID vaccine. Now Europe's still doing it pretty tough, and some sort of partial lockdowns over there. But again, they appear to be sort of getting on top of the virus. Likewise, the UK as well. There was sort of a compulsory testing in Liverpool in the UK, and that's throwing up cases that are now being sort of quarantined, and again helping to get on top of the vaccine. On top of the virus. Obviously, in the northern hemisphere, that's really important to really get on top of this virus as we head into the Christmas period. And certainly in the UK as well, it's interesting because Prime Minister Johnson, again, was in close contact with a COVID positive case. And it'll just be interesting to see if he contracts it again, because obviously he had the virus back in May. Now in Australia, there's been a couple of little flare-ups of as those borders have opened up. Most noted being sort of southern Australia, and again they've got a little bit of a sort of a partial sort of lockdown, sort of 5 or 6 day circuit breaker, just to try and sort of get on top of the virus. Now here obviously in New Zealand there was a recent case in the community in Auckland. Now obviously that was a little bit concerning. That has now been traced back to a managed quarantine facility. So at least the source of the virus is known. Now both in New Zealand and Australia, it's getting quite interesting as we get into the sort of seasonal sort of fruit pickers and harvesting sort of areas. Very reliant on sort of overseas workers coming in to do that sort of work. They're obviously being prevented at present with the borders being closed. And it's just going to be interesting to see how the governments try and address that situation. Obviously, quite a bit of talk as well in New Zealand about the housing market, really being driven, say by certainly record low interest rates and mortgage rates, but also as well sort of overseas, sort of Kiwis coming back from overseas do have money, can get out and, sort of spend it in the housing market when there is an acute shortage of houses. Now on the back of those record low interest rates, obviously it works the other way for savers. Chorus have a bond in the marketplace at the moment at 7 or 10 year. 7-year rate looks to be around sort of 1.4 to 1.5. 10-year rate appears to be around 1.7 to 1.8. If you're interested in those, call us on 0800 867 323. Now, against that backdrop of low interest rates, it is pretty tough out there if you're looking for income. There are plenty of alternatives available, and if you're interested in discussing what is available, call us on 0800 867 323 or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.